As always, I do ask that you leave a tip and donation at the link gsmc.cloud. It is a huge support to both the network, myself, and my fellow podcasters, so do please consider leaving a tip at the link. Now, coming up for our next segment, we have a game in the NHL tonight as the Edmonton Oilers take on the Dallas Stars and look to clinch home ice advantage over the Stars. They already split in Dallas, so Edmonton is looking to take a huge advantage in this series. After an exhilarating game last night, give credit to the Eastern Conference finalists, Florida and New York, in their exhilarating game. Edmonton and Dallas looking to top that tonight. I think that this series is the more even of both conferences. I do think that ultimately Edmonton and Dallas are very well balanced to face each other. I think that this is an exciting series in terms of storylines, as we've seen how the Edmonton special teams has come on strong to help them late in the playoffs, while Dallas is just very well structured in all levels of the ice, can hit you hard during any time of the game. And so I'm looking forward to tonight's game to see how this series shakes out, which team will have the balance shifted come tomorrow. And so looking at the early betting odds for this game, we have the over-under set at 5.5 points. In terms of the money line, Edmonton minus 130, Dallas plus 110, and the Oilers are favored. They're at minus 1.5 for tonight's game. Looking ahead at the fantasy in terms of DraftKings, as before, all three top spots are taken by Edmonton Oilers, with Draisaitl, McDavid, and Bouchard being the top three. But tonight, I just want to focus on Draisaitl and Bouchard. They are the keys, both on offense and defense, for the Oilers for tonight's game. I think that Leon Draisaitl is just a powerful player, and he can get going at any time, obviously leading not only the Oilers but the league in playoff points. So obviously he's going to be tonight's highest priced player at 8.5K, and he's projected to have 18.8 fantasy points for tonight. Looking at a player in Evan Bouchard who has been surprising, whether in terms of his defensive prowess or offensively, where he has been scoring booch bombs left and right. He is very loved in Edmonton, a key figure for Edmonton's playoff run this year. He is valued tonight at 6.8K. He is projected to have 14.9 fantasy points. In terms of the Stars, let's look at the Stars as a team. They obviously rely heavily on defense as well, and it all starts with the man in between the crease tonight, Jake Oettinger, probably the second best goalie in my mind in these playoffs behind Bobrovsky, maybe even the third best if you want to throw in Shesterkin in the Eastern Conference, but Jake Oettinger is still probably the most solid goalie in the Western Conference, and is a huge reason as to why Dallas are where they are. He is projected to have 8K. He's projected to go for 8K. Sorry about that. He's projected to have 13.4 fantasy points as well. And in terms of that defense, it all starts with a man who is averaging an insane amount of ice time, so vital to the Stars defensively and on special teams, Miro Heiskanen. He's only projected to go for 5.9K. I think that's a bargain for anyone looking for a strong defenseman to lead their squad tonight. And he's projected to have 11.5 fantasy points. Now, in terms of how this game will play out, it is really anyone's game, in my opinion. I think that both of these games, Game 1 and Game 2, beforehand, showed the fact that this is a very tight series, and it all could come down to who's the better defense. I think that this series, goals were very hard to come by. I think that, obviously, both teams don't want to make as many mistakes offensively, and that's why they are focusing on their defense. They are focusing on being strong in terms of penalty kill. Obviously, both teams very high up in terms of playoff penalty kill. So that is why, looking at these odds, I think the odds are right where they need to be. I think the over-under is fair. I think, honestly, this game could go either way, because both teams, while strong defensively, have those players that can get going on the offensive side of the ice. Edmonton, obviously, with that three-headed monster, Draisaitl, McDavid, and Bouchard, can get you from anywhere. Or, if you look at the Stars, they have a young gun in Wyatt Johnston. They have Jason Robertson. They have the structure built for them going forward on all levels of the ice. But in tonight's game, I am looking at the Oilers minus 1.5 as a very appealing option for bettors tonight, as I think that the Oilers will ultimately win this game. They stole home ice advantage from Dallas by splitting the first 2 games, and now they're heading back to Edmonton with 3 games to play there. So I think that Edmonton has a really strong chance to make a statement in this Western Conference Finals going forward. I think that Leon Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard are well-deserved in terms of where they are placed in terms of fantasy. They are the 2 top point scorers for Edmonton and in the playoffs, respectively. So I just think that Edmonton right now should be feeling pretty confident. Obviously, they are coming off that Game 2 loss where the Stars finally broke through in the third quarter, got some goals. But I'm looking at Edmonton to bounce back. I think that Edmonton has the better experience when it comes to how to manufacture points, both offensively and also I think they're going to really be honed in terms of special teams and in terms of their power play and penalty kill tonight. So therefore, I just think that Edmonton has just enough to eke out a win at home tonight and really take over this series. But in terms of the Stars tonight, I think that the Stars will score a couple of goals because that's who they are. That's their identity. The Stars will never go down without a fight. Obviously, I'm looking for them to want to establish themselves defensively, but I also think that they, with their young guns up front, want to score goals as well. Obviously, I'm looking at Stuart Skinner in terms of Edmonton's goaltending issues to kind of have to weather a star storm early on, but overall I think that Stuart Skinner will have a bounce back game. I think that he will do enough, mainly due to the defense in front of him. The amount of shots they do not give up is very crucial in how Edmonton plays, so I think that whether Stuart Skinner faces a lower number of shots or a higher number of shots is highly dependent on Edmonton, but ultimately I think that he will be able to deal with them and that Edmonton will provide for him up front as well. That being said, going forward, I think that the betting trends look for them to be a bit more volatile, and I think that since this series is going to be low solo scoring as we saw in the past couple of games, I do think that it will highly depend on how tonight's game goes as well. This Game 3 is probably the most important game in this series, seeing as to how, since both teams split games at Dallas, this next 3 games are very crucial as to how bettors are going to view this game going forward, how you are going to see the odds change in favor of one team or another. So do be very wary of how you bet coming up, but for tonight's game, I'm highly confident in saying that Edmonton minus 1.5 is a nice looking bet, and 5.5 is a very fair level in terms of how the points will be distributed for tonight's game. But that is just going to do it for this segment. Coming up next, we are going to get into what fantasy is all about. Yes, we're going to be talking some football, specifically Group of 5 fantasy college football and all the nice players that you might be overlooking come draft time for fantasy college football in the Group of 5. So we will be right back.